our special guest, Rachel Brantingham. So our guest today is someone I've known since we were kids. I've had to enjoy watching her become one of the most successful businesswomen in Hardin County. But here's the thing. A lot of you know Rachel Brantingham's name. You've seen her real estate signs. Maybe you've worked with her team. Maybe you know about Brantingham Builders. But today, I want you to know Rachel, not the businesswoman, but the person behind all of it. The daughter, the mom, the sister, the woman who has built something remarkable while staying true to who she is. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Phil. I'm excited.
All right, let's get started. So Rachel, let's start at the beginning. Take us back. What was it like growing up as a Brantingham in Hardin County?
Yeah, so I'm a Hardin County native. My parents came here before I was born, and I loved growing up here, the small community and the connections that were made very early on. Growing up as a Brantingham, we were kind of a unique family, right? There was 7 kids in my family and mom and dad. So we attended Severance Valley Baptist Church, and we went to every Wednesday night dinner, and somebody would always spill their drink. And we went to Captain D's every Thursday where kids ate free because there was a billion of us. But it was a really great childhood, like having the smaller community where our afternoons were spent running free in the neighborhood because it was a safe community. Like it was a really great growing up here in Hardin County. So
your dad, Paul, started Brantingham Builders decades ago. What are some of your earliest memories of watching him build that business? What did you learn just from being around it?
Yeah, so I had a front row seat. So something unique about me, I was homeschooled. So my parents chose to go that route, religious reasons, but also just they wanted their hands really involved in our education. And so because of that, I had a really front row seat to like watching my dad, and I got to go to his job sites with him and be around and hear the conversations. And I saw the struggle. I saw the challenges that came with being an entrepreneur. I saw the cyclical market, the massive growth that happened over my childhood in Hardin County, but also the really difficult markets that there wasn't a custom home to build. So he had to shift and pivot into remodel work. And then he started his own installation company to help get our family through some of those difficult market moments. So I think being homeschooled really allowed me to hear more of the conversations and be more involved. I got to go to the job sites and learn all the aspects of construction, which was pretty cool because it gives me an understanding of homes outside of just the buying and selling side of the business. So I'm really grateful for that. I got to learn a lot about business by osmosis, right? They didn't sit me down and teach it to me, but I just was hearing the conversations as they were happening. And so I learned a lot before I ever was in a position to start my own business.
Yes, I understand that. I was homeschooled too. That's how our families all met and had similar upbringing from my grandfather, who was a big entrepreneur. So that resonates. That you grew up in a much bigger family than I did, though. What was that like? Were you all expected to pitch in and work, or did your dad or parents treat you any differently because you were one of the daughters?
No, not really. Well, so I have 2 brothers and there's 5 girls. And so I'm closer to the younger. So the older ones had a lot more responsibility. As it trickled down to me, I got to kind of choose what I wanted to do. But we were all heavily involved. Dad was someone who, life is hard, and he wanted us to understand that. And if we wanted to earn something, like he paid us at a very young age. I remember feeling like I probably wasn't, but I felt like I was the richest girl in my friend group because my dad would pay us cash for our work. So it instilled in me a very early understanding of like, hey, I can go out and earn my own money, and then I can use it in any way I want. So it kind of started that entrepreneur in me at a very early age. But no, I wasn't really treated differently. In fact, I remember one day on a job site, my dad calling me, and it was probably one of those old cell phones that you like flip open, right? And he was like, hey, I had been there cleaning up the job site, and he said, hey, go find the brick guys and tell them that I want all that brick moved around to the back. They put it in my way. And I remember going around to the bricklayers, and of course I'm like this little blonde girl, right? And so intimidated. And I was like, hey guys, my dad wants you to move all of that over there. Right. And so, but it just, it instilled in me very early, like the courage to just handle tough situations and have those conversations. There was never a difference between my brothers and I in regards to business. I think he was probably a little nicer to me just because I have a little bit more of a delicate emotion, but he was great in like really early on teaching me to be tough and to handle the reality of life.
When did you first realize you wanted to be in business? Was there a moment where something clicked, or was it just always in your blood?
I think it was always in my blood. I think being born around it and like hearing the conversations, and then more than that, I wanted to be in business. I think it was that I wanted to have an impact. So I got married at 21 and we had moved away, and I knew that I couldn't take the construction business, or I didn't really want to go work for another construction. I started at Panera Bread, and I ended up building a really great career with Panera. They were awesome to me. I loved it. I was a market training manager and covered a huge territory by the end of my career with a lot of opportunity going forward. And I remember the day I came home and had a conversation with my husband and said, hey, I want to leave my really high paying, good benefit job, and I want to go back to work for my parents' small business. And it was a massive pay reduction. And of course, there were other reasons I wanted to have kiddos, and I didn't feel like being on the road all the time was a good option for me. And so it was a choice we agreed upon. But the biggest thing about that is I remember sitting in a cafe late at night, and all the sandwiches had gone out, and the soups had gone out. And I thought, I'm not really making an impact here. Like tomorrow, everyone's going to wake up hungry. And sure, the relationships that I'm building are very impactful, but I wanted a little bit more of an impact. And so came back and started working for my parents' company. And the fun of driving around Hardin County and being with my children, because my dad did it with me, and being like, hey, mommy helped build that house. And hey, mommy sold that commercial building that used to be. And hey, mommy did this. And so it's impacting. And I think Hardin County has my heart. I plan to be in this community for the rest of my life, raise my children here. And so I was in Louisville at the time and knew I wanted to transition back. But I think business has been in my blood. It's something that I'm just very passionate about and enjoy. And so it never was a decision. It was just, this is what I was meant to do.
Well, let's talk about your path. You're the owner and CEO of the Brantingham Group at Keller Heartland, which is one of the top real estate teams in Hardin County. How did that start? What made you decide to build your own team instead of just being a solo agent?
Yeah. So I'm incredibly blessed. My business has grown dramatically. And, there were the early days when I sold my very first house. And I remember getting out of that closing and bawling my eyes out in the car because I just was so excited. Right. And so, it started there, and then it gradually grew. And it was just one person that believed in me and knew that I was going to support them to the best of my abilities. And suddenly I got to where my capacity was maxed out. And I knew that I didn't want to say no to any of these people. Like I knew that I was going to serve them with heart and passion and do my absolute best. And so I started looking for team members that were going to match me in that same passion and heart. And then I was so fortunate to bring on some incredible people, and I trained them, and we taught them how I speak and how I do things and the type of expectations I have for them. And so it was just a natural byproduct of growth, right? Like at some point you have to add leverage, or you're not going to be able to continue to grow. And so I've been really lucky to partner with some amazing agents who just fall all over themselves to support and provide guidance and be at the top of the education. We are constantly, pursuing additional education so we can be more creative in the options that we offer to our clients. So I'm really proud of the team we've built, but it was just a natural byproduct of the growth that we were experiencing.
If you think back to the beginning of that journey, what was it like? Was it scary, exciting? Talk a little bit about how it felt emotionally.
Yeah, growth is always probably multi-layered, right? You're super excited, right? Like here I went from, so post-divorce, I remember being grateful. He and I separated and we split financially. And I was grateful that I got to keep my home, and the current position I was in, I was okay. But realizing that like I couldn't afford the mortgage on my house, and I was going to have to put my house up for sale and move into an apartment. And so going from that moment of being like, how am I going to make it, to then hitting this milestone where it was like, oh my gosh, I have to add people to be able to keep up with the business that I've built. So you're excited, right? Because it's wonderful. but then there's also fear, right? As a leader, when you morph into, an individual agent who's just running their own business to actually have to develop and be responsible. I mean, in essence, they view me as their CEO and leader, but I really show up every day to serve them. I am employed by them to produce growth opportunities for them every single day. And so it is a give and take. I think there's a lot of emotions when you adjust into that level, and it's a continuous adjustment, right? Like now you're like, oh, I'm taking on more and I need more leverage, and leverage has to coach and develop the other leverage. And so I definitely think that it's a multi-layered emotion, and I think fear and excitement typically go hand in hand. So
I agree. And then didn't you added a property management company? Now, is that part of the Brantingham group as well, or is it separate? And then also, honestly, what made you say, I want to take on more?
So it's a standalone company, Brantingham Properties. We manage over 350 doors, both short, mid, and long-term in Hardin County. I'm super proud of that organization. So it's 3 years in the making. We have a goal to get to 500 properties by the end of next year. So if you're looking for a young strategic property management company, we want to be your team. So I had a client who came to me, and they were so kind. They said, Rachel, our old property manager is going into retirement, and we want you to open a property management company. And I remember sitting there in the office, and I just said, that's not in the plans right now. Like I was going to do that at some point. It was in my big scheme of businesses that I eventually wanted to open, but it was 5 years away, right? So he said, you know what? It was a Friday afternoon. He was very kind. He said, Rachel, you know what? I'm going to give you till Monday. I want you to think about it. Okay. And so he left my office. I was not going to think about it. I knew clearly I was not up for starting a property management company at that moment. I went to church on Sunday, and I go to Southeast Christian, and the pastor preached my favorite book of the Bible, which is Esther. And at the end of the sermon, he looked out in the audience and he said, one of you guys is being faced with a decision. And I just want you to know that, like Esther, it's for such a time as this. Well, gosh darn it. I walked to the parking lot and I called this client and I said, hey, so I'm starting a property management company. If you're up for this, I'd like to take on your properties. And so that started the whole thing. And it's been ugly. It's been hard to sit here and be like, we made it to 350 doors and it just happened, would be a lie. It was a challenge. We had to learn a whole new operating system. We needed people. We went into it debt free. And so building from nothing is messy, right? And so the owners that we proudly support, I can't thank them enough for, allowing us to grow with them and learn the ropes. And they trusted us to do that as quickly as we possibly could. So I'm really proud of the company that we've built and the team that we've assembled. They serve with heart and passion every day. So okay.
Also, for your third company you're involved with, Brantingham Builders. I think you'd lead that with your brother Mike. But that's three major things you're juggling. Now, how do you do it? What does a typical day even look like for you?
Yeah, so I do it by trusting the team that I've assembled. It requires a lot of leverage. And then I create myself a list of everything that I'm supposed to do in a given week, and I give 80% of it away, right? So I have to just capitalize on the most important 20%, and that's what I spend my time focusing on. So a given day, a given week, time blocking is essential. So I block all of my time. There is, it's kind of that saying, like, if you don't tell your money where to go, it'll just disappear. In the same way, if you don't tell your time where to go, it'll disappear. So like my calendar, it would, it's literally blocked out every single hour of the day. And that's just the way my time has grown into it. I have a responsibility to my team to protect it and then make sure it's returning an investment, and then be able to shift the responsibilities to them. And it takes a lot to go from a single entrepreneur, because at that point your hands are on everything, right? You're manhandling every single thing, that everything's being juggled perfectly because you're doing it. Well, then turning over that trust and responsibility, because these aren't just transactions, these aren't house sales, these are people and relationships that I really treasure and value. And it's not another deal to me. No deal is another deal to me, whether it's $100,000 home or a $5 million home. It is not just a sale. It is a family, a friend, a client that I dearly love and want to ensure that they have the most magical experience that we can produce. So it takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of learning, and I fail daily, right? And it's just getting back up, and we adjust and we figure out a better way to approach it, and we keep going as quickly as possible.
That's right.
Well, that's impressive too. Just hearing you talk about it, learning something every day. I want to talk a little bit about working with your family because I know you get to do
Yeah.
that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about working with Mike for a minute. You two are running, Brantingham Builders that your dad built. What's that dynamic like? Do you all get along all the time, or do either one of you still push each other's buttons like you did when you were kids?
So Mike and I are basically twins, right? We're 13 months apart in age. My mom like smushed us together because we were homeschooled. So we learned at the same pace. And so a lot of people ask us all the time if we're twins. No, it is so much fun working with Mike. I'm incredibly impressed by the man that he is and the way he operates. He has the knowledge, the construction knowledge of like a 50-year-old, and he's in his 30s. Like, he has been on job sites since he was really little. And not only that, but he's the president of the Lincolnshire Home Builders Association currently. To have accomplished that at such a young age, like, he's very, very impressive. I'm very proud to work alongside him. We give each other a lot of grief. He is the first to call me out if I drop a ball, but I appreciate that. We are literally so close together. He lives next door to me. Like, we just, our lives are very, very similar. And both of my brothers, my older brother, Joshua Brantingham, he's not involved in Brantingham Builders, but he is a remodeler, a spec home builder. He runs the insulation company that my parents used to own, has been sold a couple times. He runs that out of Louisville. They are both my biggest fans. Also, they give me the most hell for everything that I do, and they joke with me the most. But I know that I could call either of them, all of my siblings at any moment, and they would show up for me and support me. And so, it's fun working with them. It's a lot of there's some I want to say shit talking, but I feel like that's an inappropriate word to say on here. There's a lot of shit talking.
We can allow it. Yeah.
We've said
That's
worse.
good.
Don't worry about it. I've said worse.
They give me a lot of grief.
Oh, I've seen it too. And for those of you who don't know, Josh is one of my best friends. Mike, I've known for a long time, as a good friend as well. So it's fun to see you all grow up, and then see you still give each other heck. How about that? Heck.
Yeah.
But how do you value? Well, you already answered that question, so we'll move on.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about motherhood and life lessons. So you're running 3 different businesses, but Rachel, you're also a mom of 2 boys. How do you balance that out? And honestly, do you ever feel guilty about the juggling act?
Oh, mom guilt is horrible. I mean, I think even if you're the very most magical parent in the world who shows up and has millions of dollars and never has to work, there's still going to be guilt involved with motherhood. And I'm sure there's guilt on the fatherhood side as well, not to isolate just mothers out of that. But early on, I sat in a training and they talked a lot about making your kids partners. And so my conversations with them they're probably more adult level than they are. They're 6 and 9, Maximus and Alexander. And, but when, like, for example, the other night I had to go speak in an event, and their dad was picking them up, which I'm so grateful for the partner I chose to have children with. He is an amazing father. He shows up to support me in so many ways, and I love his wife. They're really great. And so we together are raising those kiddos. And so I knew their dad was coming to pick them up. And of course, they wanted to stay at mommy's house. So they got sad. And I grabbed their hands and I pulled them in close. And I said, listen, guys, I need you guys to be really good partners with mommy tonight. Okay. Mommy has to go speak at this event, and you guys have to do a really good job going to daddy's house and being really good for daddy. And then this weekend, and I started in on all these fun things that we're going to do. Right. And instantly it was a different conversation. They like leveled up because they were rising to the occasion. So absolutely, mom guilt is real. I think, I struggle with like being present at times. There's moments in my business, but I think balance is not real. I think everyone's like, I want to live a balanced life. That's not the reality.
Right.
If for anybody, there's seasons, even if you have a 9 to 5 and you're not an entrepreneur, there's seasons where you're going to have to stay till 10 o'clock at night to get something done. Or, you're going to invest in something, or with your church, or, just at different seasons. So I view my life in seasons. And when I'm in a hard work season and it's just grinding it out to make something successful, I ask for grace for my kids. I explain it to them, whether they understand it or not. I want them to say, hey, listen, mommy's building something. And, I'm going to do everything I can to be present when I'm here. But you might spend a little extra time with daddy over the next week or two. And, I just need your all support in that. And they get it. They get it more now than they used to. But I think, and then just giving yourself grace, like you're probably a better parent than you realize. And the fact that you care so much should tell you that. So it is a juggling game and there are seasons to it, but I love everything that I do, from my children being my highest priority to the businesses that I run. And so I try to show up fully, and you can't be overly worried about the details, right? Mom might not be cooking dinner every night, but we're going to go to grandma's house and we're going to make it fun because we're going to tacos again, right? So you let the details go. Some of the things don't matter. If the Christmas tree isn't decorated the day after Thanksgiving, it's okay.
No, I agree. And there is father guilt too. But yeah, I don't think it's quite the same. But funny you mentioned your parents, because I got another question. A question that I wrote mainly because I've experienced this before. Curious if you have. Was there something your mom and dad did when you were growing up that you didn't understand or maybe even resented at the time, but now as a mom yourself, you totally get it?
Oh, so many things. There was a lot of aspects of our childhood that were hard, right? Like my parents were not, and my dad more so. My dad was pretty serious growing up. Like he towed a hard line. And I definitely took it, like I kind of even saw it as him being mean when I was younger, but now I'm really grateful for it, right? It's made us tough. And it's funny because this is a little funny one. I remember my dad and mom had this rule that on Saturdays, they would give us all a 30-minute notice, and we had to clean up our house, and any toys left out were put in a trash bag and thrown away, which if you want to get a clean house quick, this is a very good tool. So the other day I pulled out a trash bag and was like, all right, boys, this is what we're doing. And like, I didn't understand it then. And I talked them through it, right? I explained to them the importance of having a clean home and stuff. And so there were certainly aspects of my childhood was, they were very protective. And I remember they isolated me from some friendships that weren't healthy. And at the time I thought, y'all are being so cruel, right? Like, why would you not want me to hang out with my friend? But now as an adult, I try to be overly involved in my kids' lives and do the same thing and try to help them associate with individuals that I feel are of high character. So I think there were many things. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Me too. I know. It's crazy how you think your parents might not know that much until you become a parent yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, right. So what do you want your boys to learn from watching you? Not just about business, but about life.
Yeah. This is a great question because I think there's so many layers to this one. I think I want them to know that anything is possible if you're willing to work really hard, and that connections and relationships are the fastest way to success. You can know a lot and not have the right individuals in your world and really struggle to get ahead quickly, right? So I'm so grateful for this small community because I have so many friendships and partnerships that have quickly sped me in my journey, and they have been catalysts to my success. And so I want them to play sports here, and I want them to go to school here, and I want them to be connected, because I think pour into those relationships and then vice versa, what you get out of those. So, but I think they already see it. Like, they already are little mini entrepreneurs that sell everything from golf balls on the golf course to trying to sell tickets to my Christmas event parties. I'm like, no, we can't charge for those. Those are free. Right. But I think they're already starting to hear those conversations and see that. And so I want them to know that they really can accomplish anything they set their mind to.
All right. That is great. All right. We're wrapping up, but we still got a couple more little segments. I kind of wanted to make sure we were thorough here. But Rachel, I wanted to shift gears a little bit because I think it's important, especially considering the time of the year we're in with mental health issues and just people not being the happiest, or, so there's a lot of issues out there. So I thought maybe you sharing a little could help some people. And you and I have both been through divorces. I watched you go through that. I know how hard it was. Can you talk about that time, but specifically, like, what was it like trying to keep everything together when your personal life felt like it was falling apart?
Yeah, I wouldn't wish divorce on my worst enemy. The closest thing I can compare it to is a death, right? So I've never been widowed, but hearing that experience, in a way, it's very similar because the person that you were going to spend the rest of your life with, the plans that you had made, the future that you had envisioned all dies in that moment. And in an aspect, it's kind of hard because they still walk around, right? And they're no longer your person, right? So then you have to relearn how to perceive them and how you interact with each other. So it was very dark. And I think it was a grieving process that I needed to do on my own. I didn't really bring my family and friends into it until it was really far along. And I remember sleeping on the bathroom floor because I wasn't sure if I was going to vomit or not. Like it was really dark. But I also think that friends and family and my children gave me a reason to get up every single day. Right. And there was like an act of like, okay, you can't stay here, right? There is no choice but to move through this. And I remember I walked in to the divorce attorney's office and I sat down and we went through the paperwork and he got up and he left. And as I got up and left, I walked out in the cold and I remember it was a freezing day in January. It was cloudy, similar to today, but no snow. And I glanced down at my phone and one of my really good friends texted and said, "Rachel, embrace this as a new adventure." That's all it said. And so then I started changing my perspective, right? Like I could define my future exactly as I wanted it to look, right? And I could make the decisions that worked best for me and my boys, and I could make my own money. And I made a bucket list of things that I wanted to experience, right? And it was skydiving and I wanted to travel and I wanted to do all of these things. And then it started to infuse in me an excitement again, right? Then I stopped thinking about all the negative and everything that I had lost. And I started thinking about the positive, and I surrounded myself with friends and family that reminded me of my value and encouraged me. So 100%, I have been there when I did not want to wake up. I did not want to wake up the next day. It was embarrassing. It was lonely. I felt so unworthy and unloved. And, sitting here today, I'm so grateful that I made that decision to get up every single day for my children and for my success. So if you're going through that, just know that you're not alone. Reach out to me, reach out to Phil, reach out to a family or friend, someone who loves you, because there are people out there, more people than you can imagine that love you. So
yes, one thing I learned when I was going through my divorce was how easy it is to isolate yourself.
Mhm.
It sounds like that you figured out that's pretty much the worst thing you can do. But
Very-
like you said too, I think in the beginning of it, you got to kind of deal with it on your own. It's hard to bring other people into it. But I don't necessarily know if that was right of me either to because I did isolate for a long time. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you pushed through it. What would you say, which you kind of already said this, so I'm skipping a couple questions down, but what would you say to
Okay.
someone watching right now who's in the middle of their own storm, whatever that looks like? How do you
Yeah.
get back up when it's easier just to stay down?
I would recommend that you paint the vision of what the future looks like, down to what it tastes like and what it looks like, where you have to recreate your excitement for life. Because if you're really in a dark place, it's easy to feel like everything is awful and everything's a mess. And, you're so heartbroken. It's really hard to think about the future and give yourself a reason to get back up. So, and then really, I know that you want to isolate. It's the easiest thing to do. No one understands, right? Like no one could possibly understand what you're going through, but they do. And most likely there's someone there waiting to be let in if you would allow them. So find that person and then just fight. Do not give in to those thoughts. And, whatever that may look like, for me, it was distraction. I really poured myself into my work, and I'm grateful for everything that I built during that dark time because it gave me a distraction, but find your thing and then really just take control of those thoughts. And then really focus on friends and family and what's to come and the excitement of your future.
I always say you are what you think, which I always don't know if I really believe that until after I went through some hard times.
Yeah.
Thank you for that and being honest and vulnerable with us. Curious about your future and the drive. And I always ask everybody that I interview pretty much, try to figure out what their why is. So after everything you've been through, what drives you now? What keeps you pushing forward? What is your why?
Yeah. So my why, obviously the nice answer is my children, but as I've done a lot of self-work over the last decade, I've looked deeper than that. Like, really, what is it that I was born to be and born to do? And so obviously I do everything for my boys. I want them to have a future that is better than mine, right? But I remember attending a funeral of a local gentleman who had passed away. And I walked into that funeral and it was standing room only. There was no seats. And I remember a gentleman getting up and giving me his seat, which was very chivalrous of him. But I sat there in the back and I barely knew this gentleman. I knew his daughter and came there to support her. And I heard them get up one by one and speak about this incredible man and the way he lived his life and how he gave back and all these people that just were so blessed by his existence. And I just remember as like a 19-year-old girl thinking, this is what I want my funeral to look like. I don't want to just live and die.
Mhm.
I really want to have left an impact. Maybe that impact looks like 20 or 30 people, right? But if I can build a big enough platform where I'm able to really impact more people than that, I wanted to. And so I've just set out on this journey to touch people's lives and try to know and be involved with as many people as I possibly can be. And there's a poem that I love. It's the line that you've probably heard is like, rage, rage against the coming of the night. Everyone, death comes for us all, right? At some point, we're all going to be gone. But the impact that we have in this world, and I'm a Christian, and the impact that we create in heaven on the souls that we come into contact with here on this side of heaven, it's my why. It's what gets me up in the morning, and the excitement of who I'm going to meet and those relationships that I'm going to create and the connections and things. That's what I do every day.
All right. That is powerful stuff. If someone's listening right now, maybe a young woman who's thinking about starting a business or pursuing something big, what would you tell her?
Oh, call me, because I will be your biggest cheerleader. You're 100% capable. The world is wide and big, and there's no reason to be scared. Like, you put one foot in front of the other and then surround yourself with really smart people. There's more people that want to partner with you and give you feedback and input than you imagine. Like, I'll be your biggest fan. Like, I can, so I would 100% say, don't let fear hold you back, because that's all it is. And fear is just something in our heads that tells us that we're not good enough and we're not going to be able to do what we think we're going to be able to do. It is all a lie. Like, you are braver and more confident and cooler than you think. So go out there and just take it on. I like I said, I would be your biggest fan.
Well,
To that,
Rachel,
fear
go ahead, Scott.
is false evidence appearing real. So sometimes, like what you're saying, Rachel, is if you don't have the belief or faith in yourself, borrow it from somebody.
Yes.
There's lots of people out there like Rachel, Phil, anybody else that sometimes, you need to have somebody to have your back sometimes, that shoulder to lean on. Kind of like what Britton said in the comment. You don't be afraid for that, because there is someone out there. You just got to
We're going to check those comments.
And I think finding your tribe is super important, because I'm sure people who look at me be like, she probably never is fearful. She probably, doesn't lack confidence. I 100% have been put back together by my friends and family more times than anyone can count. There have been moments where I wanted to burn it all to the ground, and I didn't see a way forward. But it's having that really awesome tribe, and I'll be in your tribe. Pick somebody, but somebody who puts you back together. It's to remind you who you are.
Mhm. That's true. So, Rachel, I've known you for a long time, but sitting here today having this conversation, I didn't know all of that. So I just wanted to say thank you. It's an impressive story. And as a friend, proud of what you've been able to accomplish. So now I want to tell everybody something. Rachel didn't come on here just as a guest. Starting next week, Rachel is joining the Hardin Local team as a collaborating member and host. She's going to be here as often as possible, bringing the same heart and authenticity that you just saw to every conversation we have on the show. So, Rachel, welcome to the team. We're excited to do this with you.
Thank you. I'm super excited.
We are too, very excited. Wish the rest of the guys were here, but we went a little longer today so they could all be, So to everyone watching, though, but if you're trying to connect with Rachel, I'll make sure that she has her phone number down there in her name, but also make sure I add her contact information to our link tree at hardinlocal.com so you can talk to and reach out to her. Before we get off here, I'm going to check the comments. While I'm checking the comments, Rachel, is there anything you're working on new that that you wanted to share, that you're able to share or wanted to share?
We've got some big things coming. So I'm not allowed to elaborate too much. I have a way with getting so excited that I share too soon. And then my team's like, right. But of course, just, with what we currently have going on, we've got big goals and we want to partner with you on your goals. So I think that's a little bit different about how we approach real estate. My goal is really to use real estate with you as a tool to increase your wealth, increase your goals. So we view ourselves more as strategists versus just agents. So if you're looking to partner with a property management company that is going to be a strategist for you and work with you on your team, we want to be that for you. If you want a builder, or if you're looking to invest in real estate, buy, sell, that's who we are. So we want the opportunity to work with you.
All right. Let's go through these comments. And we thank you, Rachel, for being real with us today. We definitely do. This was great. So Corey, that was earlier. So Job said, well said, Rachel, John O'Brien. And Lisa Story said, such an inspiration. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, Lisa, for the comment. Britton commented as well. There's always someone here for you. Don't be afraid to find a shoulder to lean on. And I would highly suggest that you do that, especially with seasonal depression and whatever else you're dealing with. It's way easier to do it with somebody else. Lisa commented again, saying woohoo. All right, during one of your phenomenal answers there. And Matt Mann is clapping for what you shared. And my parents, Keith and Megan Tall, welcome, Rachel. You make these guys look good. And Britton again said, I'm excited as we move forward. Rachel's a rock star that will bring tremendous value to the team. I agree. Thank you, Britton. And before we go, I just wanted to express a little more of my excitement. I've been working with Rachel on talking her into doing this since, was it Josh's birthday in July, I think?
Long time.
So 5 months. So it was something that I've worked on. And sometimes people tell me I don't look as excited on camera. But I'm very excited on the inside. So
you're an introvert.
Just wanted to,
that's why our introvertness is more closed in.
Oh, and Lisa said again to you, Rachel, I'm an entrepreneur and would love to partner with you on a project. So
hey, Lisa, text me. That's my personal cell number on the bottom of the screen, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can.
Yeah, and that number, Lisa, is 270-401-2801. Before we log off, just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Also, I wanted to give anybody else opportunity for a shout out. That you guys, either one of you have one birthday or some friend you wanted to say something to or anything like that. Are we good? I think we're good.
We're good.
All right. Well, don't forget to follow us and go to hardinlocal.com and follow us across all our social media platforms. And also check hardinlocal.com, maybe by 5. I'll have a bunch more links up there where you can follow Rachel. I'll put her contact info on there as well as Scott's links, Nate's links, Britton and Experienced Eater, and everybody else that's part of this podcast. Also follow us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook as well. If you're watching on Facebook now and haven't clicked that follow button, go ahead and do it. And we really appreciate you guys joining us. This has definitely been our most watched stream. And if you missed the stream, don't worry. If you just saw it, you can rewind it or you can wait for me to put out the edited segments. And you can watch what you want to watch on your own time in your own way. And we thank you for sticking with us. I know we went longer than normal, but we'll see you next week at the same time, the same place. Have a great week, Hardin County, and stay in the know.
Bye, guys.